and today we're going to go through how to customize your store. Oftentimes there are some things on the checkout process that you want to customize more fully than we allow in the default settings. So let's go over some of those things. As a good example of how we can do some custom coding is we have this select lens button, and we can see it has a border radius on it, and it is right next to the add to cart button. And so what we'd like to do is make this more square and then give it some space between the add to cart. The way that you would go about doing this is to go into LensAdvizor Settings and scroll down to the very bottom. And you can see that we have three big text areas here, which are Custom CSS, HTML Injector, and the Custom Js Injector. So what we're going to do first is look at the Custom CSS Injector. And I've prepared some code already where we can just copy paste this over. And you can see I have the select lens button here, and I want to change the border radius to 0 pixels. So I'm going to go and save this, and then take a look at what happens when I refresh this page. We can see that the select lenses button now no longer has that radius border and has a 0 pixel radius border. But it's still right next to the add to cart button, so I want to give it some space. And to do that, I'm going to scroll up and give this a margin bottom of 10 or 20 pixels. And when I save that, you can see that the select lenses button now has some space between it and the add to cart. Going into the flow of LensAdvizor, there is a lot of text or other things that you might want to add or change. In this case, I'm going to show you how to choose your prescription, or how to change this choose your prescription type text. And to do that, we're going to use the HTML Injector. I've prepared some code here already, and let's go take a look at what that looks like. So we have some help text here, and the way it works is we have the selector of the ID or class, the method that you want to use, which could be HTML, before, after, etc., and then the HTML that is actually going to be put in there. Right now, the text is choose your prescription type, and I want to change this to something else, such as please choose one. I come down here and save the settings, and if I refresh the front end, you will see that once we get into the flow, the HTML Injector changes the text because it is replacing the HTML itself. We can use the HTML Injector to both replace HTML and elements, and we can also use it to inject HTML in other places that we want. The last thing that I want to cover is the Custom JS Injector. I already have some code here that is not relevant, so we can just ignore that. The Custom JS Injector is used when we want to do something a little bit more elaborate than just changing the style or just updating the HTML. With the Custom JS Injector, you can literally do almost anything you want to the front end of the app. And to give you an example of something we can do is the current default of the SPH values in the single vision is -20 all the way down up to +12. And we want to reduce the values to a more reasonable range. But in LensAdvizor, we don't yet offer this setting. However, if you have your developer or yourself, if you're quite familiar with development, you can look at the lensadvisor.liquid file and see how we set up the SPH field. And since I already know how this is done, I'm going to use that same code and overwrite it. And to do that, I'm simply pasting this JavaScript in and setting the values from -2 to +2. I'm going to save this code, refresh the page, go into the flow, and you can now see that the SPH values are limited from -2 to +2. The Custom JS Injector can also be used in many different ways, but one of those is using the events that are fired by LensAdvizor as a customer goes through the checkout process. One of those events is the LensAdvizor lenses loaded, and we're going to use this and see how this works. So I prepared this code that fires when the lenses are loaded. And instead of doing a console.log, I'm just going to do an alert so that we can see this show up. Let me save this code, and let's go through the flow again. So as we go through the flow, I'm going to choose non-prescription because that will be the easiest. And we can see that the event fires and that alert now shows. So once the lenses have been loaded, that alert would fire. You can use this to change many different aspects of LensAdvizor. Potentially, you could use that to create categories or insert even more complex HTML, or ask the user a question to get some information about custom fields that you then want to pass. The custom Js Injector gives you a lot of flexibility to modify the app to meet your needs. Please reach out to either myself, Zenas, or Ming, and we'd be happy to help you get started with customizing your store. Have a great day.